Ukraine, igniting massive fires overnight. This comes after President Trump expressed optimism for peace talks that are expected to resume in a few days. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded to the attack, saying in part, joint pressure on Russia by way of sanctions and defense support is the way to stop them. Let's bring in Brian Taylor. He is the director of the Moynihan Institute of Global Affairs at the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Good morning, Vlad.
So new talks are scheduled between Russia and Ukraine next week. What realistically can we expect to come out of them?
Well, it's a curious situation in that both the Russian and Ukrainian delegations are going to be in Saudi Arabia to meet with the American delegation. It doesn't seem they're actually going to meet directly with each other. So the Americans are probably going to be shuttling between the two sides. And what they're hoping to agree on is what the terms of this stop to air targeting of energy and other infrastructure amounts to. And Russia wants it to just be energy infrastructure. Ukraine wants it to be strikes on all infrastructure. And so there's a bit of a disagreement in the details there.
So it's remarkable that Russia wants the United States to stop military aid. They want the Ukrainians to stand down. Meanwhile, there's no pressure being put on the Russians to do anything. Would the Ukrainians agree to that?
Well, I think the Ukrainians really would like a broader ceasefire at this point. At least President Zelensky agreed to that. Remember that the discussion last week was about, or 2 weeks ago, was about a ceasefire across the board. Then it was air and sea. Now they're concentrating on air, but maybe talking about sea and Saudi Arabia. But I think your basic point is right, that so far most of the pressure seems to be on the Ukrainians to make concessions and very little pressure on the Russians to make bigger concessions, given that they're the party that started the war.
City of Odessa in one of the biggest drone attacks, sparking fires amidst the Czech President Petr Pavel's visit to the country. Now, Ukraine claims that at least 3 teenagers were injured, and these are images of firefighters who are struggling to douse the fire. The attack comes as the United States is pushing for a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia and is hoping to agree to a partial ceasefire that would halt strikes on energy infrastructure by both sides. Now, Ukraine has accused Russia of targeting its civilians in a guided bomb attack near the city of Zaporizhia. Kiev claims that at least about 5 civilians, including a child, have been injured in the strike. Russia maintains that it never targeted the Ukrainian civilians. The situation on the front line remains pretty grim. The Ukrainian military claims that the Russian strike on a gas pumping station in Sudza, in Russia's Kursk region. Ukrainian forces have been under immense pressure in the region for the last 7 months after a cross-border incursion. Now, Russia says that Ukraine has already violated a proposed ceasefire on energy sides by attacking an oil depot in the southern Russian region of Krasnodar. The Russian Defense Ministry says that its troops have targeted the Ukrainian military airfield infrastructure, command posts, drone storage facilities, military trains carrying ammunition and weapons, and troop and equipment concentration across 153 areas in just the last 24 hours. The Russian army claims to have repelled Ukrainian attacks in the direction of Kharkiv, Donetsk and Zaporizhia and struck on the Ukrainian personnel and equipment. The Russian forces say that they have intercepted about 225 Ukrainian drones in the Kursk region. The Russian forces have claimed to have destroyed Ukrainian weaponry and 2 drone control points in the last 24 hours.